Weekend. KBLA assigns itself the task of elevating the climate conversation by amplifying the voices of those who are most impacted by the climate catastrophes we are witnessing in real time. Stay tuned for more details. At KBLA Talk 1580, Climate is King.
With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
Jack Knight in Dakota House. All we wanna do is make it bounce. Monifah, could you turn me out? Show me what your thing is all about. Jack Knight in Dakota House. All we wanna do is make it bounce. Monifah, could you turn me out? Show me what your thing is all about.
Don't ride the white horse. I don't know why. As a little kid, that song, like, I liked the beat. I knew it was funky or something, but I did not like that song. Even more so, White Horse, not Monifah, like White Horse. I liked the beat. I knew it was a jam, but it scared me. And then when I really found out what they were talking about, yeah, I'm telling you, I know people make fun of it and talk about how those commercials that Nancy Reagan had, like the just say no part, that didn't really mean much. But those other commercials with the egg and the skillet, this is your brain on drugs, that was impactful for me. I'm sorry. It made a difference. It scared me. You were locked into hour 3 of RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. Of course, we hit all the trending topics and headlines across entertainment, sports, lifestyle, and culture. I'm your host, Jill Munroe. This is just a reminder that later in this hour, we're going to have interviews from the cast of Kingdom Business. So if you have not already, you can watch those listen to those, because we're audio, on the website or download the app. Just don't want you to be caught off guard. I want to make sure that you hear the complete fullness of the show. Okay, so we talked a little bit about Kevin Hart earlier, and I believe it was, I mentioned this a little bit on Tuesday, but I don't know how much I got into it. Kevin Hart is suing YouTuber Tasha K. And he is suing her based off of an extortion attempt he said came from an interview that she conducted with his former personal assistant. Now, the assistant signed an NDA, but felt somehow she could scoot around it. But Kevin isn't going after the assistant. He's strictly going after Tasha K, who he is alleging had someone reach out to him or his team and say that if he paid her $250,000, the interview would never see the light of day. There are also accusations of Tasha dropping hints or threats on teasers for the interview, implying that when you don't pay, this is what happens to the streets. Well, he's not messing around when it comes to his suit. And Tasha should be used to people really going aggressively after her as far as legal proceedings. We know she is still owed a judgment to Cardi B of $4 million from that case. A recent court filing revealed that Kevin Hart has added a new defendant to his defamation and extortion case. And he wants to ensure that all of her assets are available for him to collect his coins with, right? So he's suing her based off of the attempt, as I said, to basically say, hey, we have an interview coming out with your former assistant, Maisha Shakes, and 250,000, we won't post the interview. The teaser had garnered about 151,000 views. I believe that the actual interview was released behind a paywall on her website. So Tasha's team reportedly offered to give him the footage, without anything happening legally or it being put out there. His team, in turn, said that they reached out to law enforcement, and according to a report from Radar Online, he submitted an amendment to his original filing that now includes one of what he is alleging is a shell company for Tasha K, Yinlin Entertainment LLC, and they're listed as a defendant. Hart's legal team claims that the media company is owned by Tasha's husband and that the entity is responsible for the content that Tasha puts out. Additionally, they say that Yinlin was only established as a successor entity to Kibi Studios, which was the media company that Tasha owned prior to losing that lawsuit against Cardi B. So we will see what happens. Kevin Hart certainly is not shy about sicking his I shouldn't say sicking because I don't mean it like that, but about putting his legal team on situations and people where he feels like his name is being put in a non-favorable light and he's not playing games. So I don't know. I hope Tasha has her coins and her ducks in a row and is prepared to, handle business with this. Is it worth it? That's all. Is it worth it? Again, no judgment, just wondering, is it worth it by any means necessary? Perhaps it is. When we come forward, we were going to get into this Monifah interview. I'll tell you where it took place and where you can hear the whole thing, and we'll listen to what she had to say. All of that and more on the other side. You are locked into RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580.
Trending topics and the hottest happenings. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
I have a dream.
On Friday, January 12th, as we head into Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. annual holiday weekend, KBLA Talk 1580 will announce a historic climate justice campaign aimed at California communities of color. KBLA Talk 1580 is joined in this historic effort by both public and private partners including LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, Cal and Dow, the Sierra Club, and many other partners. There's a clear connection between Dr. King's moral conscience on the notion of reverence for all human life and the future of our world house. This year, on the MLK holiday weekend, KBLA assigns itself the task of elevating the climate conversation by amplifying the voices of those who are most impacted by the climate catastrophes we are witnessing in real time. Stay tuned for more details. At KBLA Talk 1580, Climate is king.
With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
Happy holidays from the LA County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs. The LA County Rent Relief Program assists landlords with unpaid rent expenses in LA County, not including the city of LA. Landlords could be eligible for a grant of up to $30,000 per unit. To learn more or to apply, visit lacountyrelief.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions because we've got your black. Listen up. If you're one of the more than 100,000 California tenants who were rejected or delayed when applying for COVID rental assistance, you've got a second chance. Under the terms of a new settlement, California's Housing and Community Development Department agreed to audit its past denials. The program ended in March 2022, but the advocacy groups Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment, Policy Link, and Strategic Actions for a Just Economy sued the department. According to the coalition's analysis of state data, the department rejected nearly 30% of all applicants. Under the settlement, the department agreed to clear all renters in the pipeline within 6 months. The settlement applies to anyone who sought assistance from the state's Housing is Key program before April 1st, 2022, whose applications is pending or was denied after June 6, 2022. Tenants who have questions about the status of their application can call the hotline at 833-430-2122. That's 833-430-2122. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Hey, keeping you informed, entertained, and always ahead of the curve. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are locked in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. So, as I mentioned, it's Throwback Thursday. So, we're going to talk a little throwback, 90s throwback. We heard Monifah bringing in this hour. You know, she had some bops in the 90s. Well, recently, she appeared on Miss Jones' podcast. If you aren't familiar with Miss Jones, she was a 90s singer. She had a couple of bops out then. Wasn't she on AZ with them, the Sugar Hill remake? I believe so. And I can't remember what her other single was. But she also, after that, became a radio personality big in the East Coast area. I think she was on in Philly and New York. At any rate, like many, she has launched a podcast. And it's called Pink Champs. How original, right? But be that as it may, Monifah joined her on the most recent episode, and they went over, you know, Monifah's career across the music industry, how she got her start at Uptown Records. You know, Heavy D discovered her, put her on, and they also talk about some of the rap and R&B collaborations that went down in the 90s and the impact of female artists in the industry. So, in this interview, Monifah opens up about her own experiences and challenges that she faced being a bisexual artist in the music industry in the 90s. And as the conversation goes on and they, you know, exchange discussions about the power dynamics that take place and the double standard in the music industry, particularly when it comes to the LGBTQ community, Monifah shared a little bit about her relationship with Queen Latifah from back at that time. Now, we know Queen Latifah has been, I say, you know, private as far as her personal relationships go. And I don't feel that she's hidden anything. She just hasn't been, you know, overt in public. And I think that that is something that we aren't really used to, especially in these later years, because everyone is on Front Street on blast. You know, they're doing photo shoots, they're matchy, whatever. And Latifah has just sort of kept her personal life, and let her work speak for itself. So, I mean, recently we know that she acknowledged her partner and their son, Rebel, and also shouted out Happy Pride. So, again, I don't think it's a situation where Latifah has been hiding per se. It just wasn't something she felt was for the world to know, I believe. So let's hear what Monifah had to say about her relationship with Latifah.
You know what I'm saying? Now, will you share? Share what? Industry, female, that you dated? Well, I mean, it's already out there. You talking about La? Yeah. Yeah, like, we dated years ago.
I didn't know that. I didn't know. She's talking about Latifah. Does she tell people that?
I don't know what she tells them.
Have you heard that come
No,
out?
I've just seen stuff on Google. You know, people are, you know,
Okay.
yeah. There were some weird lies and stories that were absolutely not true that I've seen. You know what I'm saying? But, you know.
That'd just be people picking, trying to find
Yeah,
something.
at the time, because it's a long
Was
time
it like
ago.
like a romance, like a beautiful romance?
It was a great friendship. And it was a great time. We were having a lot of fun. I was at the height of my career, as was she.
Yeah.
Not at the height, but she was on her trajectory.
Right.
Yeah, we were like.
Were you traveling? Is she like a rose petal girl, or like soft music? I don't want to stereotype just because.
No. No. When you say rose petal kind of girl, what do you mean?
Like a soft pink romantic, like music.
Honey,
candles.
Honey, we were partying,
Jet
drinking,
setting.
having a blast.
Okay.
That was my homie. You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, for whatever reason, like when it wasn't a relationship and we, you know, it was amicable and we weren't, you know, together, you know, the friendship.
So you think that her people, the people on her label, that they were against that getting out? Did they know? You think?
A lot of people knew. A lot of.
So, let's say this. There's a club in LA, a couple of them, Peanuts, Catch One. If you were outside in the 90s, you might have seen them out there. So, she is correct in saying it wasn't exactly a secret. But I do think the interesting point is that so many, you think about Brat, you think about, you know, Monifah alluding to it, and I'm sure there are other artists that have had to sort of, you know, duck or keep their personal life more undercover than perhaps they would have liked to. You know, there are moments maybe they wanted to share with their significant other that they maybe felt as though they couldn't given the climate. So what I will say is that no matter where you stand on it, I do think that it is important that people are allowed to at least be themselves more. I think that the idea that everyone is going to agree with everyone else's choices and it will line up for them doesn't really make sense. But the thing to me, as far as the conversations that we're having as of late about sexuality and exposure, in a lot of these instances, you don't have to be exposed to these particular things. You don't have to indulge in the details of it, just like anything else. And I just wonder what happened to the time, you know, people allude to it and say a lot about, oh, I just mind my business, or I'm just drinking water and moisturizing and minding my business. But do we really? Because sometimes I feel like we insert ourselves in certain conversations or interpersonal interactions that really, when it comes down to it, don't impact us that much. You know? How often is your 7-year-old really going to come across situations where they're seeing, you know, same-sex people embraced in sexual situations? If they are seeing that, more likely than not, it is a TV show that wasn't appropriate for them to watch at their age anyway. Because if there are those type of sexual situations, then there might be others, or just things that they aren't ready to experience at that age group. And with so much content available, so many devices within our reach, I don't understand why it gets people so riled up, because you simply could shut it off, change the channel, or move around. So that's interesting to me. But Monifah didn't just discuss her relationship with Latifah, and I do appreciate that she was very respectful about it, as far as, you know, we can tell. She also touched a bit on the latest wave of sexual assault cases that have rolled out, and she shared some of her thoughts about the victims and them coming out and the timing of it. So let's tap into that.
Right.
So
Doesn't make it right.
I just want people to stop talking, and not. I'm not talking about muting people, but if you're not gonna keep it gangster, stop talking.
That's never gonna happen. That's never.
I just don't appreciate the disparaging, like especially if you're in this business. I know a lot.
Yeah.
I know a whole lot.
Tell. That's why you here.
No, I'm not. I'm not. You know, I don't mean in a way because that's real seedy. It doesn't matter to the degree of, because some people speak to me just because they know I know some. It's like I'm not spilling nobody else's secrets. Like nobody cares about that. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't give a like I really don't give a
yeah. But that's their stuff.
But exactly. But I'm talking about as a man or woman in this period to disparage Cassie, and you don't know what the that young woman went through. First of all, she was with somebody 20 years. Can we talk about that? Can we talk about how a lot of these guys have always, and this is even in the growing up, we dating drug dealers. These was 12 and 22 decades older than us. They had no business.
So, I mean, there's been a lot of re-examination of things that I would say were cultural norms in the 90s that now hindsight is 2020. That's a phrase. Our perspective, our viewpoint has changed on the appropriateness of some of these situations. But, for the most part, we can't go back and relive them or reposition them. For the things where there was an egregious wrong, obviously these laws were put into place to allow people to get some type of justice. But I just sometimes really wonder what is the end goal with some of revisiting some of these topics. Again, not talking about where it involves someone being hurt or whatever, but just the re-examining of the dating patterns. I mean, and we talked about this a bit on this show. If you look at any teen movie from the 80s, I'm talking things like 16 Candles or even stuff like Porky's. I think for whatever reason that movie came up recently the other day. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Any of those things, there always was an element of either a young girl having a crush on an older guy or a younger guy somehow getting into a dream situation with an older woman. I think there was a movie that came out in 1982 called Class. And it was about two college roommates, and one of the roommates ended up hooking up with his best friend's mom, basically, and the fallout from that. You look at something like the American Pie series. The whole situation with Stifler's mom was the fact that Stifler was this high school kid who ended up getting with his friend's mother. So the shock and awe to me, to a degree, again, not justifying any of this, just saying the idea that it wasn't everywhere across culture and something that was at least somewhat understood, that these situations lived and existed and were happening in a larger scope. I mean, it was part of the culture. It was part of the coming of age thing. You've seen plenty of shows where it was topical. Doesn't make it right, but I think the lack of context and awareness being applied to that and what the situation was around pop culture, around the energy, around our exchanges, leaving that aspect out it doesn't serve anyone. It doesn't serve the people that you are now saying, oh, you didn't realize you were victimized, or if they were, it doesn't serve them in helping them to come to terms with whatever happened. I don't know. It's a process. It is, ever changing. And of course, when you're trying to get things right, you sometimes will initiate an overcorrection. It's a natural response. It's a natural reaction that happens. But anyway, I do wonder, though, are we going to reach a point, and again, I think this is something that we mentioned briefly before, that you're going to start seeing people say, well, listen, this particular artist worked on that song. I don't know if it's appropriate for us to listen to anymore. You know, these videos, though they were a part of a thing, and obviously we've seen it happen, and people have their thoughts behind whether or not they still watch The Cosby Show, excuse me, whether or not they still listen to R. Kelly's music. Will we see those same actions travel into hip hop? I'm curious to see how that all plays out. We'll see. Okay, so listen, this is your reminder once again. If you haven't already, make sure that you download the app so that you can check out the interviews that are coming up later this hour with the stars of BET Plus Kingdom Business, Yolanda Adams, Loretta Devine, who plays her mother on the show. And let me just tell you, if you have not checked it out, Miss Devine is not a nice lady in this character. You know, we're used to seeing her being sweet and loving. And this one, you know, she's bringing a little bit of fire. So we talked to them, or I talked to them about all of that and more. So download the app or make sure that you have the website up if you're checking us out on YouTube. Okay. So love triangles, right? You would think that it might just be easier just to move around, especially when your spouse works with you and your side piece does as well. But Greg LeBlanc did not do that. He is a St. Landry's Parish sheriff, and, you know, he's the police chief, actually, not just a sheriff, he's the chief. And he has had to apologize to his wife after his side chick shot them up, right? So Greg was basically at his side chick's house on December 22nd, having a nice time. But she also, again, is a police officer. His wife, Crystal, is a captain in the same parish, right? So they're all police officers, right? So basically he was at the house when his wife, Crystal, pulls up to his side chick's home to ask some questions, right? We don't know how she got the address, but she showed up, boom, boom, knocked on the door, told the husband to come inside, and he steps outside. They start arguing. Savannah's in the house grabbing her gun, waiting for the opportunity to protect her. I don't know, what do you call the man that's in her side man? I don't know what you would call it. At any rate, his chick ended up firing her gun. Listen, y'all gotta stop. Is it that deep? Do we really want to utilize that? Now you're going to go to jail. And as an ex-police officer, I don't think jail is where you want to be. But lesson learned. And Greg, learn to be faithful. At any rate, on the other side, we will have more trending topics, more headlines. You are locked in to RSVP with Jill Munroe here on KBLA Talk 1580. News and sports up next.
Infusing a sense of fun and entertainment in every episode. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward.
I'm Amber Payton. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Police have confirmed a 6th grade student is dead after an active shooter event at an Iowa high school. It happened during the first day back for students at Perry High School, which is around 40 miles northwest of Des Moines. There are also a handful of gunshot victims who are in the hospital. The 17-year-old shooter, who was a student there, took his own life and also left behind an explosive device that was defused. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds said their hearts are heavy and gave her condolences. The president of the Salt Lake branch of the NAACP is running for the State House of Representatives. Longtime civil rights activist Janetta Williams filed to run to represent House District 26. Williams, who is black, is challenging Republican Representative Matt McPherson. State House District 26 is considered one of the most competitive seats in Utah. That's the latest. I'm Amber Payton on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Drought, war, and rising food prices have doubled the number of families facing malnutrition. You can help. $50 provides a food kit to feed a family for a month. Just text the word radio to 97646.
KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress, pursuing justice through participatory democracy. Listen to KBLA Talk 1580 Saturday morning, January 13th from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. for an exclusive forum featuring the candidates for LA County District Attorney. Join KBLA's Tavis Smiley as he helps navigate what promises to be a forum full of fire when the candidates trying to unseat current LADA George Gascon come together on stage on the campus of the Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science. Again, it's the LA County District Attorney Forum, live, exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580, Saturday morning, January 13th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Helping to raise your civic IQ. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment through the arts. Tia Chucha Central Cultural is on a mission to transform community in the Northeast San Fernando Valley and beyond through ancestral knowledge, the arts, literacy, and creative engagement. The Northeast San Fernando Valley has a population of about 500,000, the size of the city of Oakland, yet it has no bookstores, art galleries, or full-fledged cultural spaces until Tia Chucha's opened its doors in 2001. Founded by renowned poet and activist Luis Rodriguez, Tia Chucha's Cultural Center provides a year-round free or low-cost arts and literacy bilingual intergenerational programming in mural painting, music, dance, writing, visual arts, healing art sessions, and healing talking circles. Activities also include Mexica, Aztec dance, indigenous cosmology, philosophy, and 2 weekly open mic nights, one in Spanish, the other in English. In addition, they host author readings, film screenings, and art exhibits. To express yourself, heal yourself, attend an event, or volunteer, please visit www.tiachucha.org. That's TIACHUCHA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
I started vaping my freshman year of high school, mostly because all my friends had vapes. I wanted to fit in with them and look cool and be a part of everything that they were doing. The hardest part about quitting for me was all my friends still hitting their vapes right next to me. It was really frustrating and confusing when I was trying to quit because in my head I knew I didn't want to do it anymore, but for some reason my brain still wanted it.
No quit story is the same. For free support, text Kick Nicotine to 66819 today.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles is a nonprofit law firm that protects and advances the rights of the most underserved, leveling the playing field and ensuring that everyone can have access to the justice system. Every year, LAFLA provides free, high-quality legal services to more than 100,000 people living in poverty across greater Los Angeles. Their unique combination of neighborhood offices, self-help centers at courthouses, and domestic violence clinics puts Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles on the front lines in vulnerable communities and at the forefront of change. LAFLA's expert team of attorneys, paralegals, and support staff works to provide direct representation, offer counsel and advice, provide referrals, and educate the community about their legal rights through workshops and seminars. With locations all over LA, you can access their services or volunteer to help no matter where you live. And if you have an urgent issue, call 213-235-0060. That's 213-235-0060. To get legal help, make a donation, or volunteer, visit LAFLA.org. LAFLA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. Curating the most compelling stories and delivering them straight to your ears. You're listening to RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580.
1990, Chubb Rock jumps upon the scene with a lean and a pocket full of green. The green doesn't symbolize I made it on the top, but RoboCop last year was a shock. The tone of the Popeye cut shook your butt. Kids are screaming, the media says what? Kind of music is this for you to dance to? The man with the plan and the band demands you. Leave the smack and the crack for the whack, for the vial and the knock, keep a smile like that. Leave the knife and the gun in the store and ignore temptation set by the nation. Racial game cause his pain needs a new rep. In your heart and mind, never forget you set Hawkins, and when you're walking, you know just one. Black on black, remember that, it's important. Anyway, the shunless one bring forth the fun. No hatred, the summer's almost done. No time for sleep. Jump in your Jeep and pump up the funky beat. Holy beamer goes off, yo, smash it, then trash it. You're too young to be plumped in a casket. Just get your boys and bring the noise and just swing it. And party people sing it.
Rock, man. 1990, I mean, that one's not hard to guess because it's like the first lyric of the song, but still, a good year. That was popping. When I think about that song, I also think about Color Me Bad, Sex You Up, because that dropped a little while after that. New Jack City dropped in I think March of 1991. That was on the soundtrack. Treat Me Right, Treat 'Em Right. It dropped a little bit before that. I also think about, this is going to be really random, Delight, Groove is in the Heart. That was, a pop song, but it got play on the hip-hop stations. It had Q-Tip on it doing a little rap. He had his little 816 in there. Again, 1990. What else does it make me think of? Tom's Diner. I don't know why. Those songs stand out to me from the fall of 1990 to the spring of 91. Random, I know. I just wanted to share. Okay, so look, Cesar Pena, that is DJ Envy's former business partner. We know that he was arrested, accused of fraud, wire fraud, a couple of other things. Well, looks like he might be taking a plea deal from the charges. He's being charged with illegally obtaining money from several real estate investors, and that, little money, significant amount of money. So in court documents that were obtained by All Hip Hop, they included a statement from Pena's attorney, and it stated that counsel for the parties represented that this additional continuance is necessary for the effective preparation and to permit the parties to attempt to resolve the case prior to indictment and thereby avoid a trial. So plea negotiations are currently in progress, and both the United States and the defendant, desire additional time to negotiate the plea agreement. So basically, he's like, nope, not going to go to trial. Let's try and work out a deal to get the least amount of time possible. We know his moniker was Flipping NJ. He was arrested in October for wire fraud. DJ Envy, as it stands, hasn't been charged with anything, but his name has come up several times in reference to whatever business practices Pena may have been involved in, right? So Envy said on the Breakfast Club a few months back, if Caesar took money, I wasn't privy to it, nor did I know. He said, I do understand how people feel if they did give him some money, because I gave him a lot of money that I didn't see a dollar in return for. So he said, for anybody to say that I was involved, that's totally not true. Pena also equaled that statement. He said he didn't take issue with Envy being presented as a victim. He said DJ Envy's attorneys, that's the dumbest stuff I've heard of in my life. He said, me and him were partners in the real estate seminars. We were partners in a couple of real estate transactions. That's it. He's not a victim. He was my partner. He was an actual investor. So we'll have to see what ultimately happens with that. I hope that the people that invested their money can at least get some of that back. You never want to hear about that. At any rate, listen, there's someone else that wants y'all to know that she has a message for you. And it's Keke Palmer. And we're going to, end on this before we get into those interviews. Keke basically addressed how she believes the question that she's been asked, how can I hate black women when I date them? And her response was, very easily, actually. So glad you asked the question. It's very easy to date someone you don't respect when you are looking for ways to feel better about yourself. Even if you are less successful than said woman, there is still a history of propaganda that tells you you will always be better. I added the second always. Be better than someone, right? She said that this is based off of racial oppression and gender oppression. You may think you have created a win-win scenario for yourself to finally be better than someone. This is when the one-sided competition begins. But the gag is you can't break a spirit that's already been broken open. When you experience oppression, at least from where I'm standing, there isn't anything that can take you down. So for my sisters that have found themselves sleeping with the enemy or two, they were supposed to be able to break you. Everyone said you were an easy target, but you just keep winning, and this breaks their reality. They couldn't beat the one person that they were supposed to be able to beat. And because of that, you weren't competing anyway. And now they're watching you rise up against it all and in the ways that they never could have imagined. And they never could have anyway. They hate you because you aren't who the world told them you'd be. Keep winning. Keep creating. The only reality there ever was is us winning. So, Keke is going through her moment. She is expressing herself, finding renewal in herself, and asserting her independence and, just her womanhood. That's what usually happens after a breakup. So, give Keke some grace. Don't be too mad. I know that people are probably like, why doesn't she be quiet? Listen, they let us in and out of the group chat. We oblige. We hang out. We get our commentary off, and we move around. I don't know about you, but the first week of January has been filled with so very, very, very much. But, we're always here at RSVP with Jill Munroe on KBLA Talk 1580 to keep you updated, keep you in the know. Next week when we return, I will have highlights from the Book of Clarence premiere. I'm going to that tomorrow night. And the 82nd Annual Golden Globe Awards. I'll be covering that on Sunday. So, I'm going to remind you again. I know that you're listening to me, but just want to make sure you hear me. Make sure you download the app so you can check out the interview with the stars of BET Plus's Kingdom Business. That would be Yolanda Adams, Loretta Devine, Soraya, Lamaya Good, and more. We're going to have a conversation with them about season 2, about the competitions that come up and all of those good things. Lock in. Listen, I appreciate you. I appreciate you for checking us out. Check out those interviews. And then after that, you know what comes next. The best of KBLA. Have an amazing weekend. I'll see you next week.
RSVP with Jill Munroe is your go-to show for staying in the know. More engaging conversation when we come forward.